The chatter of the restaurant faded to white noise as I balanced 3 plates along my forearm, my fingers cramping from the 12-hour shift. The scent of garlic and seared meat clung to my uniform, to my hair, seemed to seep into my very pores. Bella Luna had once been my sanctuary, the job that kept a roof over my head and my daughter fed. But lately, it had become my prison. Table 7 is still waiting on their check, Emma. Frank's voice cut through the din, sharp and accusatory. I nodded quickly, feeling the familiar tightness in my chest. Frank Moretti had inherited Bella Luna from his father 6 months ago, and the charming family restaurant had transformed with its new owner. Gone was the warm atmosphere and friendly management. In its place stood a tyrant who counted every minute of my breaks and every penny in my till. I'll take care of it right now, I promised, hurrying to deliver the steaming plates to table 12 before retrieving the check. The family at table 12 smiled gratefully, the mother ushering her children's hands away from the hot plates. They were regulars, the kind who tipped well and learned my name. Their kindness was a small mercy in my exhausting day. As I turned to retrieve the forgotten check, I noticed him for the first time. He sat alone in the corner booth, the best seat in the house, with a view of both the entrance and the back exit. Dark suit, impossibly crisp white shirt, no tie. His presence seemed to bend the light in the room, drawing shadows toward him, while simultaneously commanding attention. Not that he seemed to want it. His gaze was steady on a leather-bound notebook before him, his fingers occasionally turning a page, or making a notation with a pen that probably cost more than my monthly rent. I'd never seen him before, yet something about him made my skin prickle with awareness. Perhaps it was the way the other servers gave his table a wide berth, or how Marco, our normally unflappable bartender, personally delivered his drink, something amber in a crystal tumbler. Or perhaps it was the man seated at the bar, facing outward, his attention constantly scanning the room before returning to the corner booth. "Emma!" Frank's voice again, closer now. "What are you staring at? Table 7. I startled, nearly colliding with a busboy. "Sorry, I'm going." As I hurried to retrieve the check, I felt the weight of a gaze on my back. Not Frank's impatient glare, something else. Something considering and intent. But when I glanced toward the corner booth, the man's attention remained fixed on his notebook. I was rushing back with Table 7's check when it happened. Frank emerged from his office just as I passed, his thick arm shooting out to grab my wrist. "You're distracted today," he hissed, his fingers digging painfully into my skin. "That's the 3rd table you've kept waiting." "I'm sorry," I whispered, aware of nearby customers turning to look. The humiliation burned hotter than the pain. "We're short-staffed, and Lucia called in sick. Excuses." His grip tightened. "Maybe you need a reminder about who's in charge here." I tried to pull away, feeling the first edge of real fear. Frank had been volatile before, but never physical. The change in him sent ice through my veins. "Frank, please. Customers are watching." His eyes narrowed dangerously. "Then we'll continue this, where they can't see." With a sharp tug, he pulled me toward the swinging kitchen doors. I stumbled after him, trying desperately not to cause a scene. My daughter Lily needed this job, needed the flexible hours that allowed me to take her to school and pick her up afterward. Being a single mother at 26 had taught me to swallow my pride more times than I could count. As we pushed through the doors, the kitchen's heat hit me like a wall. The cooks glanced up, then quickly averted their eyes, a reaction I'd seen too often lately when Frank was angry. They couldn't risk their jobs either. "You've been distracted for weeks," Frank growled, finally releasing my wrist. An angry red bracelet of fingerprints remained. "Late 3 times this month, begging for schedule changes, disappearing to take phone calls about your kid." "Lily was sick," I said, rubbing my wrist. "The school nurse called." "I don't care." His voice echoed against the stainless steel counters. "This isn't a charity. Your personal problems aren't my concern." I felt tears threatening, but forced them back. Crying would only make things worse. "It won't happen again. You're right, it won't." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Because you're working doubles for the next 2 weeks. No more special schedule." The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. "But I can't. Lily needs me to find someone else to watch her or find another job." He stepped closer, his bulk trapping me against the prep table. And good luck finding one that pays as well with your lack of qualifications. The tips here are generous. The truth of his words stung. Without a college degree and with 7 years focused on raising Lily alone after her father disappeared, my options were limited. I'd been lucky to find Bella Luna when we moved to the city, desperate for a fresh start after Peter cleaned out our bank account and vanished. Now, get back out there and do your job, Frank said, turning away dismissively. And Emma? He glanced back. Your shift tomorrow starts at noon, not 3. I've already updated the schedule. The air rushed from my lungs. Lily's parent-teacher conference was at 1. I'd requested tomorrow afternoon off weeks ago, and Frank had approved it. But... problem? His tone dared me to challenge him. I thought of Lily's excited face when I promised I'd be there, how her teacher had specifically requested both parents attend if possible. I'd have to tell her once again that it would just be her, alone. Like mother. Like daughter. No, I whispered. Defeat a bitter taste on my tongue. No problem. Good. And bring the corner booth another drink. He's a VIP. Friend of a friend. Don't screw it up. I nodded mechanically, pushing through the kitchen doors with leaden feet. The restaurant's noise washed over me again, but now it felt distant, as if I were underwater. I moved on autopilot, delivering the check to table 7 with a smile that felt cracked at the edges, then collecting an empty glass from table 4. At the bar, I placed the order for another whiskey, Macallan 25, neat, Marco informed me in hushed tones, and waited, staring blankly at the polished wood. The reflection staring back at me looked hollow-eyed and faded. When had I become this person, this shadow moving through life, taking whatever was given because fighting back wasn't an option? You should put ice on that. The voice was deep and quiet, with a hint of an accent I couldn't place. I turned to find the man from the corner booth standing beside me at the bar, his notebook nowhere in sight. Up close, he was younger than I'd initially thought, maybe mid-30s, with sharp features that would have been harsh if not for the intelligence in his dark eyes. He wasn't conventionally handsome, but there was something magnetic about him, something that commanded attention. He nodded toward my wrist, where Frank's fingerprints were darkening to bruises. It's nothing, I said automatically, tugging my sleeve down. Just an accident. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Is that what he told you to say? I glanced nervously toward Frank's office. I should get back to work. What's your name? He asked, ignoring my attempt to end the conversation. I hesitated, then answered despite myself. Emma. Emma Collins. He didn't offer his name in return, just studied me with that same considering look. How long has he been hurting you, Emma Collins? He doesn't... I stopped, the lie sticking in my throat. It's not what you think. He's under a lot of pressure since taking over the restaurant. That excuses it? No, but... I broke off as Marco approached with the whiskey. Your drink, sir. The man didn't take it. Instead, he asked Marco, how much does she make in tips on an average night? Marco's eyes widened, darting between us. I wouldn't know, sir. Guess. Maybe. 150? 200 on weekends? The man nodded and reached into his jacket. I tensed instinctively, but he merely withdrew a money clip. Peeling off several large bills, he placed them on the bar and slid them toward me. Take the rest of the night off, he said. Go home to your daughter. I stared at the money, more than I'd make in a week, then back at him, fear prickling along my spine. How do you know about my daughter? A ghost of a smile touched his lips. You have a charm bracelet peeking out from under your sleeve. One charm is a small gold L. You've touched it 4 times in the 3 hours I've been watching you. A nervous habit. Your finger has a faded ring mark, but no ring. And when that man... He tilted his head toward Frank's office. Mentioned your kid in the kitchen. You called her Lily. My mouth went dry. You heard that? From all the way across the restaurant, I hear what I need to hear. He picked up his whiskey, his eyes never leaving mine. Take the money, Emma Collins. Consider it an advance. An advance for what? He took a sip of his drink. A favor I may ask someday. Warning bells clanged in my mind. This wasn't charity. This was something else entirely. Something potentially dangerous. I thought of Lily waiting at Mrs. Rodriguez's apartment, probably already in her pajamas doing homework at the kitchen table. I thought of the parent-teacher conference tomorrow that I'd now miss because of Frank's vindictive scheduling. I can't accept this, I said, pushing the money back toward him. I don't even know who you are. You will. He didn't touch the money, and you're going to accept it, because you need it more than I do. Your daughter needs it. The mention of Lily again sent a chill through me. Please don't talk about my daughter. His expression softened fractionally. I mean her no harm, but that man, he nodded toward Frank's office again. He harms you. And what harms you, harms her. I couldn't argue with that logic. Every bruise I hid, every tear I swallowed, affected Lily in ways I tried to pretend she didn't notice. Why are you doing this? I asked. Let's call it a dislike of bullies. His answer came too smoothly, too practiced. Before I could respond, the kitchen doors banged open and Frank emerged, his gaze sweeping the restaurant until it landed on me. His face darkened as he stormed toward us. Emma, what are you doing bothering our guest? Get back to your tables. I flinched, already stepping backward when the stranger shifted slightly, his shoulder angling between Frank and me in a subtle but unmistakable gesture of protection. She's not bothering me, he said, his voice cooler than before. In fact, we were having a pleasant conversation until you interrupted. Frank faltered, his aggressive stride breaking rhythm. Mr. Russo, I apologize if she was... Russo? The man raised an eyebrow. I think you have me confused with someone else. Frank paled visibly. I'm sorry. I thought Giorgio mentioned... I know Giorgio, the man conceded, but I am not Russo. The exchange meant nothing to me, but it clearly meant everything to Frank, whose entire demeanor transformed from bullying to obsequious in seconds. Of course, sir. My mistake. Can I get you anything else? On the house, of course. You can give Emma the rest of the night off, he said, finishing his whiskey and setting the glass on the bar. With pay. Frank's jaw worked, his eyes flicking between the stranger and me. Sir, we're short-staffed tonight, and she's already agreed to... I wasn't asking. The man's voice remained perfectly pleasant, but something in it made the hair on my arms stand up. It was the voice of someone accustomed to being obeyed. Frank swallowed hard. Of course, sir. Emma, you can go. I stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. Your coat, the stranger prompted gently. Go get your things. Moving mechanically, I headed to the employee locker room, my mind racing. By the time I returned with my purse and worn jacket, the stranger was back at his corner booth, once again absorbed in his notebook. Frank was nowhere to be seen, and Marco gave me a wide-eyed look that clearly advised, go now. I hesitated by the exit, feeling I should say something, thank you, perhaps, or goodbye, to the mysterious man who'd intervened. But as I glanced toward his booth, the man seated at the bar, the one who'd been watching the room, caught my eye and gave an almost imperceptible shake of his head. The message was clear. Leave. I pushed through the door into the cool night air, my legs trembling with delayed shock. Only when I was halfway down the block did I realize I was still clutching the money he'd placed on the bar. I hadn't meant to take it, had even pushed it away, yet somehow it had ended up in my hand. A cab turned the corner, its yellow light glowing in the darkness. I raised my hand to hail it, feeling the weight of unseen eyes on my back. As I slid into the cab's back seat and gave the driver Mrs. Rodriguez's address, one thought echoed in my mind. I didn't even know his name, but he knew mine. He knew about Lily, and something told me our paths would cross again. What I couldn't know then was how that brief encounter would change everything, and how the favor he mentioned would come due sooner than I expected. The cab ride home felt surreal, as if I were floating outside my own body. Streetlights streaked past the window, casting alternating patterns of light and shadow across my hands. The money, his money, felt heavy in my pocket, a tangible reminder that tonight had irreversibly altered something in my carefully balanced life. You okay back there, miss? The cab driver's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror. You look like you've seen a ghost. I'm fine, I lied, forcing a smile. Just tired. He nodded sympathetically. Long shift, huh? My sister's a waitress, too. Tough work. I made a non-committal sound and turned to stare out the window again. The familiar landmarks of our neighborhood began to appear. The 24-hour laundromat with its flickering sign, the corner bodega where Mr. Patel always slipped Lily an extra piece of candy, the small park where we spent Sunday afternoons when the weather was good. Normal, ordinary places that anchored our lives. They looked different tonight, somehow diminished by the knowledge that there were people who could change your circumstances with nothing more than a quiet word. People who noticed things like charm bracelets and faded ring marks. People who could hear conversations through kitchen doors and make Frank Moretti, the man who'd been terrorizing me for months, crumble with a single glance. When the cab pulled up in front of Mrs. Rodriguez's apartment building, I overtipped the driver using a bill from my own wallet, not willing to break into the mysterious man's money just yet. The thought of spending it filled me with a vague unease, like accepting a contract whose terms I hadn't read. Mrs. Rodriguez answered her door with surprise written across her kind, wrinkled face. "Emma, you're early tonight. Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine," I assured her, stepping into her apartment that smelled of cinnamon and clean laundry. My shift ended sooner than expected. In the living room, Lily sat cross-legged on the floor, math workbook open on the coffee table, her dark curls falling forward as she frowned in concentration. At 7 years old, she was all skinned knees and determined spirit, so much like me in appearance, but with a quiet resilience entirely her own. My heart squeezed painfully at the sight of her. "Mommy," she exclaimed when she saw me, her face lighting up. "You're home early. Mrs. Rodriguez made empanadas." "I saved you some," Mrs. Rodriguez said, patting my arm. "You look tired, mija. Sit, eat something." I wanted to refuse, to gather Lily and retreat to the safety of our small apartment 2 floors up. But the genuine warmth in my neighbor's eyes made me hesitate. Mrs. Rodriguez had been a godsend since we moved to the building 6 months ago, watching Lily after school when my shifts ran late and charging far less than she should for the service. "Thank you," I said, sinking onto her worn sofa just for a few minutes. While Lily packed up her homework, Mrs. Rodriguez brought me a plate with 2 golden empanadas and a small bowl of rice. The familiar, homey food brought unexpected tears to my eyes that I quickly blinked away. "Something happened tonight," Mrs. Rodriguez said quietly, her shrewd gaze missing nothing. "You want to talk about it?" I shook my head, conscious of Lily returning to the room. "Another time." She nodded, understanding in her eyes. "Whenever you're ready, I'm here." 20 minutes later, Lily and I were climbing the stairs to our 3rd-floor apartment, her small hand warm in mine as she chattered about her day at school. Our building had no elevator, a fact I usually cursed after long shifts on my feet, but tonight, I welcomed the burn in my calves, the familiar strain grounding me in normalcy. And then Joey put the class frog in Angela's desk, and Ms. Wilson got really mad, but Angela didn't even scream. She just picked it up and put it back in the tank, and now she's Joey's girlfriend, Lily was saying as I unlocked our door. "At least that's what Maddie says, but I don't think it counts as girlfriend if you just don't scream at a frog." I laughed despite myself. "I think you might be right about that, sweetie." Our apartment welcomed us with its familiar comfort, small but meticulously kept. Every second-hand piece of furniture chosen with care, every wall adorned with Lily's artwork and photos of our life together. It wasn't much, but it was ours. A sanctuary built from the wreckage after Peter left. Once Lily was bathed and tucked into bed, I sat at our tiny kitchen table and finally allowed myself to count the money. $700, more than triple what I'd make in tips during a good week. Enough to cover the rent increase that had been keeping me up at night, with plenty left over. With trembling fingers, I pulled out my phone and searched Russo and Giorgio along with our city name. The results made my blood run cold. Giorgio Russo, suspected underboss of the Castellano crime family. His picture showed a heavy-set man in his 60s with silver hair and cold eyes, nothing like the stranger from tonight. But Frank had called the man Mr. Russo before being corrected. I scrolled through more articles, heart pounding. The Castellanos controlled much of the city's north side, including, apparently, the neighborhood where Bella Luna was located. Protection money, loan sharking, money laundering through legitimate businesses. A turf war 3 years ago with a rival family had left 7 dead. My hands shook so badly I dropped the phone on the table. What had I gotten myself into? What favor would a man connected to the Castellanos eventually ask of me? I considered not returning to Bella Luna, taking Lily and running. But the reality of our situation crushed that fantasy before it fully formed. We had nowhere to go, no family to take us in. My savings were meager, and finding a new job that accommodated Lily's schedule would take time we didn't have. Besides, a voice in my head whispered, "He found you once. What makes you think he couldn't find you again?" I slept fitfully that night, dreaming of dark eyes watching me from shadowed corners. When morning came, I rose early and made Lily's favorite breakfast, Mickey Mouse-shaped pancakes with banana slices for ears. Her delight at the unexpected treat eased some of the tightness in my chest. "Remember, I have to talk to Ms. Wilson today," she said between bites, syrup glistening on her chin. "You're still coming, right?" The parent-teacher conference. In the chaos of last night, I'd almost forgotten. "About that, sweetheart," I began, the practiced excuse already forming on my lips. But then I remembered Frank's face as he backed down, the mysterious man's quiet command. "Yes, I'll be there. 1 o'clock, right?" Her eyes widened. "Really? You promise?" "I promise," I said firmly. "Nothing will keep me away." I waited until she was safely on the school bus before calling Bella Luna. To my surprise, Frank himself answered, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. "Emma, I was about to call you." "I'm not coming in at noon today," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "I have my daughter's parent-teacher conference at 1, as we originally agreed." There was a pause, then, "Fine. Come in at 3. No argument, no threats. I was so surprised I almost didn't reply. "Thank you," I managed finally. "I'll be there at 3. And Emma?" He sounded strained. "About last night. That man who was here." My pulse quickened. "What about him?" "If he comes in again, you tell me immediately. Understand?" "Yes," I said slowly. "Who is he, Frank?" "Someone you don't want to get involved with." The line went dead before I could ask anything more. After a morning spent cleaning the apartment and paying bills, including the overdue electric notice that had been giving me nightmares, I dressed carefully for the parent-teacher conference. Nothing fancy, just my best jeans and a blue sweater that brought out my eyes, my hair neatly pulled back. I wanted Ms. Wilson to see a responsible, put-together parent, not an exhausted waitress. The elementary school bustled with activity, other parents coming and going from their own conferences. Lily sat on a bench outside her classroom, swinging her legs nervously until she spotted me. Her face lit up, and she ran to me with a force that nearly knocked me backward. "You came," she whispered fiercely, burying her face against my stomach. "I promised, didn't I?" I stroked her hair, fighting back a wave of guilt at how little it took to make her happy. How many times had I broken similar promises because of work? Ms. Wilson greeted us warmly, inviting us to sit in the 2 adult-sized chairs facing her desk. She was younger than me by a few years, with a gentle demeanor that Lily adored. "I'm so glad you could make it, Ms. Collins," she said. "Lily has been talking about it all week." The conference itself was wonderful. Ms. Wilson had nothing but praise for Lily's academic progress and creativity, though she gently suggested that Lily could be more willing to participate in group activities. "She's a bit of a loner," Ms. Wilson explained, "very self-sufficient, which is admirable, but I'd like to see her form more friendships." I nodded, thinking of how Lily had learned early to entertain herself during my long shifts, to be content with her own company. Another weight of guilt to carry. "Is she happy, though?" I asked. "Overall?" Ms. Wilson's smile was kind. "She's one of the happiest children in my class, Ms. Collins. You're doing a wonderful job with her." Those simple words nearly undid me. I blinked rapidly, not trusting myself to speak. After the conference, Lily and I celebrated with ice cream cones from the shop near her school. It was an extravagance we rarely indulged in, but today felt special, a rare afternoon of just being mother and daughter, with no rush, no obligations pulling me away. "Can we go to the park for a little while?" Lily asked, chocolate smeared adorably across her cheek. I checked my watch. I had just enough time before my shift. 20 minutes, okay? Then I have to get ready for work. Her face fell slightly but quickly brightened. I'll take it. The small neighborhood park was busy with after-school children, mothers chatting on benches while kids climbed and swung and chased each other across the wood-chip-covered ground. Lily headed straight for the swings, her favorite. "Push me, Mom," she called, and I obliged, savoring her giggles as she soared higher. I was so absorbed in the moment that I didn't notice the black SUV parked across the street or the man watching us from behind tinted windows. Not until Lily pointed and asked, "Mom, why is that man taking pictures of us?" My head snapped up. A man with a professional-looking camera stood near the park's entrance, lens aimed in our direction. As soon as our eyes met, he lowered the camera and turned away, walking briskly toward the waiting SUV. "Wait here," I told Lily, my protective instincts flaring. I hurried after him, fear and anger propelling me forward. "Hey, what do you think you're doing?" He didn't answer, just quickened his pace. He was almost to the SUV when its rear door swung open. The man slipped inside, but before the door closed again, I caught a glimpse of the passenger. Dark suit, white shirt, piercing gaze. The man from Bella Luna. Our eyes met for the briefest moment before the door slammed shut and the SUV pulled smoothly into traffic, leaving me standing on the sidewalk, heart hammering against my ribs. "Mom?" Lily called from the swings, her voice small and uncertain. "Who was that?" I turned back to her, forcing a reassuring smile. "No one, sweetie. Just someone who got the wrong park." The lie tasted bitter on my tongue. But what could I tell her? That a man connected to the mob had given me money, had his associate photograph us, knew where we lived and where she went to school? On the way back to our apartment, I kept Lily close, checking over my shoulder every few steps. My mind raced with possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. Was he watching me? Following me? Why? What did he want? By the time we reached home, my nerves were frayed to breaking. I helped Lily change into play clothes and set her up with a coloring book at the kitchen table while I got ready for work, my movements mechanical as my thoughts spiraled. I should call the police, but what would I say? A man gave me money and then I saw him in a car? He hadn't threatened us, hadn't done anything illegal that I could prove. And if he really was connected to the Castellanos, would involving the police put us in more danger? As I changed into my Bella Luna uniform, a horrifying thought struck me. What if Frank had told him about my complaints to the previous owner? About how Frank was mismanaging the restaurant, skimming from the register? What if this mysterious man was here to take care of a problem employee? The thought made me physically ill. Mrs. Rodriguez arrived to watch Lily, and I hugged my daughter tightly before leaving. "Be good, okay? I'll be home as soon as I can." "Are you okay, Mom?" Lily asked, her young face serious. "You look scared." My daughter, always too perceptive for her age. "Just tired, baby. Nothing for you to worry about." But as I hurried to the bus stop, dread settled like a stone in my stomach. I wasn't sure what awaited me at Bella Luna, but I knew with certainty that the life Lily and I had carefully built was suddenly balanced on a knife's edge, and one wrong move could send us tumbling into the unknown. Bella Luna was unusually quiet for a weekday evening. Only a handful of tables were occupied, the normal buzz of conversation reduced to a murmur that barely rose above the soft Italian music playing through the speakers. The emptiness made the restaurant feel larger, the shadows in the corners deeper. Marco greeted me at the bar with wide eyes and a quick, nervous glance toward Frank's office. "You're here," he whispered, as if my arrival was somehow unexpected. "How was your night off?" "Strange," I admitted, tying my apron around my waist. "Marco, do you know who that man was last night? The one in the corner booth?" His hands faltered as he polished a glass. "We don't talk about him, Emma. Not here." "But Frank called him Russo." Marco set the glass down with enough force to make me jump. "Drop it," he hissed. "For your own good. Just do your job and stay out of it." Before I could press further, the kitchen doors swung open and Frank emerged. He looked different, pale and drawn, with dark circles under his eyes as if he hadn't slept. When he spotted me, he beckoned imperiously. "In my office. Now." I followed him, conscious of the other servers watching with poorly disguised curiosity. Frank's office was small and cluttered, dominated by a desk buried under invoices and liquor catalogs. He closed the door behind us and lowered the blinds on the small window that overlooked the dining room. "Sit," he ordered, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. I perched on the edge, back straight, hands folded in my lap to hide their trembling. "If this is about yesterday, shut up and listen." Frank sank heavily into his chair, running a hand over his face. "I've been told to offer you a new position." "A new position?" I echoed blankly. "Assistant manager." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "More money, regular hours, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. No weekends, no holidays." I stared at him, certain I'd misheard. "But why?" "Does it matter?" Frank snapped. "It's a promotion. Most people would say thank you." The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. "He told you to do this, the man from last night." Frank's jaw tightened. "The position comes with benefits, health insurance, paid vacation. There's a company apartment included, 2-bedroom, in a better neighborhood, closer to your kid's school." My blood turned to ice. He knew where Lily went to school. He'd been there just hours ago, watching us. "I don't understand," I said, my voice barely audible. "Why would he do this? What does he want from me?" Frank leaned forward. His earlier bravado completely evaporated. "Listen to me carefully, Emma. When someone like him takes an interest in you, you don't ask questions. You say thank you, and you do whatever he asks. That's how you survive." "But who is he?" I insisted. Frank glanced nervously at the door. "His name is Alexei Sokolov. He runs certain operations for the Castellanos in this part of the city. This restaurant included." My suspicions confirmed. I felt dizzy with fear. "Bella Luna is a mob front? Keep your voice down," Frank hissed. "It's a legitimate business that sometimes helps with other aspects of their enterprise. Laundering, meetings, whatever they need. My father understood the arrangement. I'm just trying to maintain it. And what does any of this have to do with me?" Frank shrugged helplessly. "I have no idea. But Sokolov called me at 6 this morning and told me to create this position for you. Said if I didn't, he'd find someone who would." The threat was clear, even secondhand. I thought of the money in my apartment, the man taking photos at the park, Sokolov's quiet words. "Consider it an advance." "What if I refuse?" "Don't be stupid," Frank scoffed. "Nobody refuses Sokolov. I have a daughter to think about," I said, more to myself than to him. "I can't get involved in anything illegal." "The job is legitimate," Frank insisted. "The paperwork will be clean. You'll manage schedules, handle some ordering, help with the books. Nothing criminal." He hesitated. "At least not on paper. Not on paper." The implication hung between us like a storm cloud. "When do I need to decide?" "Now," Frank said flatly. "He's waiting for my call." My head spun. This was happening too fast, the ground shifting beneath my feet with every passing minute. "Can I at least see the apartment first? Talk to Lily about moving?" Frank's laugh was bitter. "You think this is a negotiation? It's already done. Your things are being packed as we speak." "What?" I stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. "What do you mean my things are being packed? Who's in my apartment?" "Professional movers," Frank said, not meeting my eyes. "Don't worry, they're being careful with your stuff. And your kid is fine. She's with your neighbor." The violation of my privacy, of my home, sent a surge of anger through me that temporarily overcame my fear. "You had no right." "I didn't do anything," Frank shouted, standing to face me. "This is all him. You think I want you as my assistant manager? You think I wouldn't rather fire you and never see your face again? But he owns me, just like he apparently now owns you." We stared at each other across the desk, both breathing hard. In that moment, I saw Frank clearly for the first time, not as the tyrant who'd been making my life miserable, but as another puppet whose strings were being pulled by forces beyond his control. A soft knock at the door broke the tension. Marco poked his head in, his expression apologetic. "Emma, there's someone here for you." My heart sank. Let me guess. Tall, dark suit, expensive watch? Marco shook his head. "No, it's a woman. Says her name is Natalia. Says she works for Mr. Sokolov." A woman. That, at least, was unexpected. I smoothed down my uniform and followed Marco into the dining room. where a striking woman in her 40s waited near the hostess stand. Her sleek black bob and impeccably tailored pantsuit exuded efficiency and authority. When she saw me, she smiled, a practiced expression that didn't reach her cool gray eyes. Emma Collins? Her accent was similar to Sokolov's, but lighter, more Americanized. I'm Natalia Petrova. Mr. Sokolov sent me to help with your transition. My transition, I repeated numbly. To your new apartment, she clarified, as if speaking to a slow child. The movers will be finished soon. I'm to take you there now, help you get settled, explain your new duties. My daughter is already there with Mrs. Rodriguez. Natalia finished smoothly. We arranged for a car to take them over about an hour ago. Your daughter seemed quite excited about the elevator in the new building. The casual way she spoke about Lily, as if she had any right to know my child, my private life, ignited my anger again. And if I refused to go with you? Natalia's smile tightened imperceptibly. That would be unwise, Ms. Collins. Mr. Sokolov is being extremely generous. It would be a shame to disappoint him. The implied threat hung in the air between us. I thought of Lily, already at this new apartment, waiting for me. What choice did I really have? I need to change, I said finally. I'm still in my uniform. Natalia nodded approvingly, as if I'd made the correct decision on a test. Of course. I'll wait. In the employee locker room, I changed with shaking hands, my mind racing. The situation felt surreal, like a bizarre dream I couldn't wake from. Why would a man like Sokolov, a mobster by Frank's admission, take such an interest in a waitress and her daughter? What could he possibly want from me that warranted this level of... what? Protection? Coercion? Ownership? When I emerged in my street clothes, Natalia was waiting by the door, phone in hand. Ready? She asked, not looking up from her screen. Not really, I muttered, but followed her outside to where a black town car idled at the curb. The driver, a broad-shouldered man with a close-cropped beard, opened the rear door without a word. As I slid into the leather back seat, I noticed the partition between the front and rear was raised, giving the illusion of privacy. Nice car, I said as Natalia settled beside me, more to break the silence than anything. Mr. Sokolov believes in quality, she replied, her tone neutral. He only associates with the best. I turned to look at her directly. Why me, then? I'm a waitress with an associate's degree and more debt than savings. I'm hardly the best at anything. That's not for me to discuss. She tapped on the partition, and the car pulled smoothly into traffic. The drive took us across town to a neighborhood I rarely visited. Not quite the wealthy Upper East Side, but several steps above anywhere I could normally afford. The apartment building was modern and well-maintained, with a uniformed doorman who nodded respectfully to Natalia as we entered the lobby. Good evening, Ms. Petrova. Everything is ready for Ms. Collins. Thank you, James. She led me to the elevator, swiping a key card to access the upper floors. You'll get your own card tomorrow. For now, the doorman will let you in and out. So I'm a prisoner, I said flatly. Natalia raised an eyebrow. Hardly. You're free to come and go as you please, but Mr. Sokolov values security for those in his employ. The elevator opened directly into a spacious apartment that made my modest two-bedroom look like a closet in comparison. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the city skyline. The living room was furnished with elegant but comfortable pieces, and the open kitchen gleamed with stainless steel appliances I'd only dreamed of owning. Mom! Lily's excited voice rang out as she raced down the hallway, Mrs. Rodriguez following at a more sedate pace. Have you seen my bedroom? It has a window seat, and there's a desk for homework with a lamp shaped like a unicorn. I forced a smile, gathering her into a hug, while making eye contact with Mrs. Rodriguez over her head. My neighbor's expression was concerned, but resigned, as if she'd already guessed more than I'd told her. It's certainly a lovely place, she said carefully. Lily's been exploring every inch. Mrs. Rodriguez was a big help with the move, Natalia interjected smoothly. She'll be compensated generously for her time, of course. That's not necessary, Mrs. Rodriguez protested, but Natalia was already pressing an envelope into her hands. Mr. Sokolov insists. The car downstairs will take you home whenever you're ready. It was a dismissal, thinly veiled as courtesy. Mrs. Rodriguez hesitated, clearly reluctant to leave me alone with this woman and whatever situation I'd fallen into. It's okay, I assured her, squeezing her hand. I'll call you tomorrow. After a tight hug and a whispered, "Be careful, mija," she left, leaving me alone with Lily and Natalia in this beautiful, terrifying new reality. "Why don't you show your mother your room while I order dinner?" Natalia suggested to Lily, who eagerly grabbed my hand and pulled me down the hallway. Lily's room was like something from a catalog. Soft pink walls, white furniture, and yes, a window seat piled with cushions. Her few possessions had been carefully arranged on shelves and in drawers, her beloved stuffed elephant prominently placed on the bed. "Isn't it amazing, Mom?" she gushed, twirling in the center of the room. "And Ms. Natalia says there's a pool in the building. Can I take swimming lessons?" The innocent request broke my heart. How many times had Lily asked for swimming lessons, only for me to explain that we couldn't afford them? Now, suddenly, we were living in a luxury apartment with access to amenities I could never have provided on my own. At what cost? "We'll see, baby," I said, stroking her hair. "We need to talk about all this. It's happening very fast." Her face grew serious, suddenly looking older than her 7 years. "Are we in trouble, Mom? Is that why we had to move so quickly?" "No, sweetheart. I struggled to find words that wouldn't frighten her. "It's a new opportunity for us, a better job for me, a nicer place to live, but it's a big change, and I want to make sure you're okay with it." "I like it here," she said simply. "And you look less tired already, out of the mouths of babes." I hugged her tightly, breathing in the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. "As long as we're together, we'll be fine," I promised, wishing I felt as confident as I sounded. When we returned to the living room, Natalia was ending a phone call. "Dinner will be here in 20 minutes, she announced. "Lily, there's a TV in the den with streaming services set up. Why don't you pick a movie while I talk to your mother?" Once Lily was settled with a remote bigger than her hand, Natalia led me to the kitchen island, where 2 glasses of red wine waited. "I don't drink when my daughter's awake," I said automatically. Natalia looked faintly amused. "1 glass won't impair your parenting abilities. Besides, you look like you need it." She wasn't wrong. I took a reluctant sip. It was excellent wine, rich and smooth, probably worth more than I made in tips on a good night. "Let me be direct," Natalia said, leaning against the counter. "You're wondering why Alexei has taken such an interest in you. Why the apartment, the job, the special treatment." The thought had crossed my mind, I said dryly. "The simple answer is that he saw something in you that interested him. Alexei doesn't explain himself to me or anyone else, but in my experience, he values certain qualities: resilience, loyalty, discretion. You must have displayed these. By serving him whiskey?" Her lips twitched. "By standing up to an abusive employer while still protecting your daughter. By refusing his money initially. By maintaining your dignity in difficult circumstances." I thought of the photographs at the park, the background check that must have preceded this move. He had me investigated, of course. Natalia sipped her wine calmly. "Alexei leaves nothing to chance. Your ex-husband's abandonment, your struggle as a single mother, your excellent work record before Frank Moretti took over the restaurant. All of it painted a picture of someone who might be useful." "Useful for what?" I asked, the dread returning. "Your official position is assistant manager at Bella Luna. You'll handle schedules, payroll, some bookkeeping. Nothing illegal, as I'm sure Frank assured you. And unofficially?" Natalia studied me over the rim of her glass. "Unofficially, you'll be a set of loyal eyes and ears, in a business that requires absolute discretion. People talk freely around waitresses and managers. They forget you're there, or they don't consider you important enough to guard their words." "He wants me to spy for him," I translated flatly. "Information is valuable in Alexei's world," she confirmed. "More valuable than money, sometimes. You'll report directly to me, and I'll relay anything significant to him." I set my barely touched wine down with a decisive click. "And if I refuse? If I take Lily and leave tonight?" Natalia's expression didn't change, but her voice cooled several degrees. "Then the generous salary, the apartment, the health insurance that would cover your daughter's asthma medications, all of it disappears, and Alexei would be disappointed." The threat wasn't even veiled this time. I thought of the photographs again, the knowledge of Lily's school, our routine. The message was clear. There was nowhere we could go that he couldn't find us. "I don't have a choice, do I?" I said quietly. We all have choices, Emma. Natalia's voice softened unexpectedly. But some are harder than others. For what it's worth, I've worked for Alexei for 15 years. He can be demanding, even harsh, but he rewards loyalty generously and he keeps his word. If you do as he asks, your daughter will want for nothing. Her education, her future, all secured. The doorbell rang before I could respond. Natalia straightened, businessman's mask sliding back into place. That will be dinner. We can continue this conversation tomorrow. Your first day at your new position begins at 9. As she went to answer the door, I stood frozen in the beautiful kitchen of my beautiful new prison, watching my daughter laugh at something on the television in the other room. In less than 24 hours, our entire lives had been uprooted and rearranged at the whim of a man I'd met only once. A man who, despite Natalia's reassurances, clearly expected something in return for his generosity, something worth far more than serving drinks or overhearing conversations. I just didn't know what it was yet. The next morning arrived with disorienting brightness. The luxurious blackout curtains in my new bedroom had kept out every trace of dawn, leaving me to wake in a panic when the unfamiliar alarm clock flashed 7:30 a.m. For a moment, I didn't know where I was. The king-sized bed, the plush carpet under my feet, the ensuite bathroom with marble countertops all felt like a hotel, not home. Reality crashed back as I heard Lily's footsteps pattering down the hallway, followed by her delighted discovery of the fully stocked refrigerator. "Mom, there's chocolate milk." I pulled on a robe I'd found hanging in the walk-in closet, not mine, but perfectly my size, and padded into the kitchen to find Lily already helping herself to breakfast. The fridge and pantry had been stocked with all our usual brands, plus luxury items we normally couldn't afford. Someone had studied our shopping habits very carefully. "Slow down, honey," I cautioned as she gulped the chocolate milk. "We have plenty of time before school." She wiped away her milk mustache with the back of her hand. "Do I take the same bus from here?" The question gave me pause. I hadn't considered the logistics of getting Lily to and from school from our new location. Before I could formulate an answer, my phone chimed with a text message from an unknown number. "Car will take Lily to school at 8:15. Driver's name is Dimitri. He will pick her up at 3 Uwalms and bring her to Bella Luna. Ms. Rodriguez has been arranged as after-school care until you finish your shift." As if summoned by the message, there was a knock at the door. I approached cautiously, checking the peephole to find Natalia standing in the hallway, immaculate in another perfectly tailored suit, tablet in hand. "Good morning," she said briskly when I opened the door. "I trust you slept well?" "Like the dead," I admitted. The bed had been sinfully comfortable, though my dreams had been troubled. She swept past me into the apartment. "Excellent. We have much to cover before you start at Bella Luna." She spotted Lily at the kitchen counter, and her businesslike demeanor softened fractionally. "Good morning, Lily. Are you excited for school today?" Lily nodded shyly. "I like your shoes," she said, pointing to Natalia's sleek black heels. A ghost of a smile touched Natalia's lips. "Thank you. Perhaps we'll get your mother some like them." She turned to me, all business again. "You should get dressed. There's a suitable wardrobe in your closet. The black pantsuit and blue blouse would be appropriate for your first day." I bristled at being told how to dress, but swallowed my pride. "I'll just help Lily get ready first." "No need. I'll assist her while you shower," Natalia said, setting her tablet down. "We want to make a good impression on your first day, yes?" The way she said "we" made it clear this wasn't a request. I glanced at Lily, who seemed perfectly comfortable with Natalia's presence, already chattering about her classroom hamster as she finished her cereal. My shower was quick, but luxurious, the water pressure and temperature perfect, the high-end shampoo and body wash making me feel pampered despite my unease. In the closet, I found not only the black pantsuit Natalia had mentioned, but an entire wardrobe of business attire and casual clothes, all in my size and in styles I might have chosen myself if money were no object. Even the underwear drawer held brand new items with tags still attached, practical cotton for every day, delicate lace for... I slammed the drawer shut, not wanting to think about why someone would anticipate my need for lingerie. When I emerged, dressed as instructed in the pantsuit and blue silk blouse, Natalia gave me an appraising look. "Much better. You look the part now. The part of what? I asked, keeping my voice low so Lily wouldn't hear from her bedroom, where she was changing. A woman of importance, Natalia replied simply. In Alexei's world, appearance matters. The way you present yourself determines how others treat you, with respect or contempt. I tugged self-consciously at the jacket sleeves. I feel like I'm playing dress-up. You'll get used to it. Now let's go over your schedule. For the next 20 minutes, while Lily finished getting ready, Natalia outlined my new role at Bella Luna with military precision. My hours would be 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. I would handle staff scheduling, payroll, inventory, and basic accounting. I would have my own office, Frank's current space, which was being renovated as we spoke. I would report any issues or concerns directly to Natalia, not Frank. What about Frank? I asked. I'm supposed to be his assistant manager, but it sounds like I'll be running the place. Frank has been reassigned, Natalia said delicately. He'll be managing another property for the organization. You'll report directly to Alexei through me. The implications made my stomach twist. You're firing him because of me? Natalia's expression remained neutral. His demotion has nothing to do with you. Frank has been skimming from the register for months, thinking no one would notice. Alexei was already planning to move him somewhere with less temptation. I thought of Frank's expensive watch, the new car he'd been bragging about. I'd suspected he was stealing, but hearing it confirmed only made me more anxious about my new position. If Alexei didn't tolerate theft from someone like Frank, what would happen if I made a mistake? As if reading my thoughts, Natalia added, You don't need to worry. Everything you need to know will be taught to you. Just be honest, be discreet, and everything will be fine. At precisely 8:15, another text announced that Dmitri was waiting in the lobby. Lily emerged from her room looking neat in her school uniform, backpack over her shoulders. Your driver is here, sweetie, I said, trying to sound casual, as if having a private chauffeur was completely normal for us. Her eyes widened. I get a driver? Like in the movies? Just until we figure out the bus route from our new place, I said, not wanting her to get too accustomed to luxury that could be snatched away at any moment. I walked her down to the lobby, where a solidly built man in his 30s waited by the door. His dark suit and impassive expression marked him as another of Sokolov's employees, but when he saw Lily, his stern face softened slightly. Miss Collins, he said with a faint Russian accent, offering a small bow that made Lily giggle. My name is Dmitri. I will be your driver to and from school. Are you a bodyguard too? Lily asked with the directness of childhood. You look like one. A flicker of amusement crossed his face. I am whatever, Mr. Sokolov requires me to be, he said diplomatically. Today, I am your driver. We should go, or you will be late. I knelt to hug Lily goodbye, whispering, Be good. Listen to your teachers, and I'll see you this afternoon at the restaurant, okay? Okay, she agreed, returning my hug fiercely before stepping back. You look pretty today, Mom, like a boss lady. The innocent observation nearly brought tears to my eyes. Thank you, baby. Have a good day. I watched them leave, Dimitri's broad shoulder clearing a path through the revolving door, his hand protectively on Lily's back as he guided her to a waiting town car. The tenderness in the gesture was at odds with his intimidating appearance, and I felt a flicker of relief knowing my daughter was being watched over, even if the circumstances were far from ideal. Back upstairs, Natalia was ending a phone call, her expression revealing nothing. Ready? She asked, gathering her things. Do I have a choice? I countered. Her lips curved in the barest hint of a smile. We all have choices, Emma. Remember that. The drive to Bella Luna was quick in the morning traffic, Natalia using the time to continue my briefing. The restaurant, she explained, was one of several legitimate businesses owned by Alexei through a complex web of holding companies and shell corporations. While it functioned as an actual restaurant, and a profitable one at that, it also served as a meeting place, a front for certain financial transactions, and occasionally, a neutral ground for negotiations with rival organizations. Your job is to run it as a restaurant, she emphasized. The other aspects are not your concern unless Alexei specifically involves you. And if the police ever investigate, I asked bluntly. Everything on paper is legitimate, she assured me. Your salary, the apartment, it's all properly documented through legal channels. You're simply a restaurant manager who's been given a generous compensation package. It sounded plausible enough on the surface, but I wasn't naive. And what about Lily? Is she safe in all this? Natalia's expression softened fractionally. Children are off limits in our world, Emma. It's one of the few universal rules. Besides, Alexei has arranged special protection for her. Dmitri is not just a driver. He's one of our best security personnel. Nothing will happen to your daughter. The restaurant was still closed when we arrived, the morning sun glinting off the polished windows. A construction crew was already inside, the sounds of hammering and drilling audible from the parking lot. Your office renovations, Natalia explained. They'll be finished by noon. Inside, the restaurant was transformed from its usual dimly lit ambiance to a work zone. Plastic sheeting separated Frank's old office from the dining area, and the bar was covered to protect it from dust. Marco stood awkwardly by the hostess stand, clearly unsure of his role in this new dynamic. "Morning, Emma," he said cautiously, eyes darting between me and Natalia. "Nice suit." "Thanks," I replied, feeling strangely embarrassed by my transformation. "Is everyone here?" "Kitchen staff's prepping for lunch. Servers don't start until 11. He lowered his voice. Frank cleared out his desk last night. Left without saying goodbye to anyone. Before I could respond, the plastic sheeting parted and a familiar figure emerged. Tall, imposing, impeccably dressed in another dark suit. Alexei Sokolov surveyed the chaos with a critical eye before his gaze landed on me. Something flickered across his face. Satisfaction, perhaps, before his expression returned to its usual inscrutable mask. "Ms. Collins," he said, crossing the room to stand before me. "I trust the apartment meets your expectations?" The casual question, as if he were a landlord checking on a new tenant rather than a man who had completely upended my life, ignited a spark of defiance. "It's lovely," I said coolly, "though I generally prefer to choose my own living arrangements, and my own clothes." Beside me, Natalia tensed, but Alexei's mouth curved in a slight smile. "Of course. Consider the current wardrobe a starting point. You're free to supplement it as you wish." He glanced at his watch. Platinum, I noted. Probably worth more than my previous annual salary. "Walk with me. Natalia, oversee the renovations." It wasn't a request. Natalia nodded and moved toward the office, leaving me alone with Sokolov. He gestured toward the restaurant's small outdoor patio, a space rarely used except in the height of summer. To my surprise, it had been transformed overnight, the worn furniture replaced with elegant wrought iron tables, the cracked concrete now covered with terracotta tiles, and potted plants creating privacy screens around the perimeter. "Another renovation," I observed as he held the door open for me. "Bella Luna has been neglected for too long," he replied, guiding me to a table in the corner where a coffee service waited. Frank's father understood the value of appearances. Frank, unfortunately, was more concerned with immediate profit. He poured coffee for us both, his movements precise and elegant. Up close, in the morning light, I could see him more clearly than in the dim restaurant. He was younger than I'd initially thought, perhaps mid-30s, with dark hair cut short at the sides but longer on top, and eyes that seemed to miss nothing. A thin scar traced his jawline on the left side, the only imperfection in his otherwise symmetrical features. "Why am I here, Mr. Sokolov?" I asked directly, ignoring the coffee. The truth this time, not the sanitized version Natalia gave me. He sat back, studying me with that same considering look I remembered from our first meeting. "The truth," he repeated, as if testing the word. "The truth is that I saw something in you that interested me. Something rare." "What?" "My outstanding waitressing skills?" His lips quirked. "Your dignity. Your resilience. The way you carry yourself despite circumstances that would break many others. You remind me of someone I once knew." The personal admission surprised me. "Who?" "My mother," he said simply. "She raised me alone after my father was killed. Worked 3 jobs, never complained, never lost her pride even when we had nothing." I wasn't sure how to respond to this unexpected glimpse into his past. "I'm sorry about your father." He waved a dismissive hand. "It was a long time ago." But watching you with Frank, seeing how you handled his bullying without breaking, it reminded me of her. So this is… what? Some kind of charitable project? Help the struggling single mom? I couldn't keep the edge from my voice. No. His expression hardened. This is business, Ms. Collins. I don't do charity. Bella Luna needs a manager who can be trusted, who has intelligence and integrity, someone who understands the value of loyalty and discretion. I believe you possess those qualities. Based on one night of observation? Based on a thorough investigation into your background, he corrected. Your employment history, your financial situation, your relationship with your ex-husband, your dedication to your daughter, all of it paints a picture of someone who could be valuable to my organization. The casual admission of how deeply he'd invaded my privacy sent a chill through me despite the morning warmth. And if I refuse this opportunity? Then you go back to your old life, he said with a shrug. Back to working double shifts for barely enough to cover rent. Back to missing your daughter's school events. Back to counting pennies for medication she needs. His words hit like physical blows because they were true. Before I could respond, he continued, his voice softer but no less intense. Or you can accept the position. Good salary, good benefits, regular hours that allow you to be there for your daughter, a secure home in a safe neighborhood. The only requirement is loyalty and discretion. And spying for you, I added. Reporting conversations, watching for… what, exactly? Information. He sipped his coffee calmly. People speak freely around restaurant staff, especially those they consider beneath their notice. Politicians, businessmen, rival organizations. They all dine here occasionally. All I ask is that you pay attention and report anything that might be relevant to our interests. And how would I know what's relevant? Natalia will guide you initially. You'll develop an instinct for it over time. I turned the coffee cup between my hands, buying time to think. And Lily? How does she fit into all this? She doesn't, he said firmly. Your daughter remains entirely separate from my business. She goes to school, comes home, lives a normal life. The only difference is that now she has security, stability, and a mother who doesn't have to work herself to exhaustion just to keep a roof over their heads. Put like that, it sounded almost reasonable. Almost. Why me? I asked again, still not satisfied with his explanation. There must be dozens of people in your organization who could manage this restaurant. People you already trust. Something flickered in his eyes. A hesitation, perhaps. Or a calculation. Trust must be earned, Ms. Collins. You have certain qualities that make you suitable for this position. In time, you may be entrusted with more responsibility if you prove worthy of it. More responsibility in the restaurant or in your other businesses, I challenged. His smile was enigmatic. That depends entirely on you. Before I could press further, the patio door opened and Natalia appeared. Alexei, the contractors need your input on something. He nodded, standing smoothly. We'll continue this conversation another time. For now, familiarize yourself with the restaurant operations. Natalia will provide everything you need. As he passed me, he paused, his voice dropping so only I could hear. One more thing, Emma. The apartment, the job, the car service. These are not chains. They're opportunities. What you make of them is your choice. Then he was gone, leaving me with cooling coffee and the distinct feeling that I'd just been offered both a lifeline and a noose, with no way to tell which would tighten first. The rest of the day passed in a blur of introductions, paperwork, and crash courses in restaurant management. The staff eyed me warily. The waitress suddenly elevated to management overnight, now dressed like someone from corporate and speaking in hushed tones with Natalia. I caught whispers, curious glances, even some resentment from servers who'd been there longer than I had. By 3 o'clock, when Dimitri arrived with Lily in tow, I was mentally exhausted, but beginning to get a handle on my new role. The office renovations were complete. The space now twice its original size, with sleek furniture, state-of-the-art computer equipment, and a small private bathroom. On the wall hung framed certificates establishing Emma Collins as the assistant manager of Bella Luna. backdated to make it appear I'd earned the position through years of service rather than overnight intervention. Lily bounded into the office with the exuberance of youth, dropping her backpack on the new leather couch. "Mom, your office is so cool!" She spun in place, taking in the transformation. "And Dimitri let me sit in the front seat." I raised an eyebrow at Dimitri, who lingered in the doorway with an almost sheepish expression. "She asked very politely," he explained, "and I had the child lock engaged." "Can I do my homework here?" Lily asked, already pulling out her math workbook. "Mrs. Rodriguez is in the kitchen teaching the cooks how to make real empanadas." I blinked in surprise. "Mrs. Rodriguez is here?" Dimitri nodded. "Mr. Sokolov hired her as a consultant for the new menu items, authentic, home-style cooking, he called it. Another piece of my old life, neatly absorbed into this new one. I wasn't sure whether to feel comforted or disturbed by how thoroughly Sokolov was intertwining himself in our world. As the afternoon wore on, I gradually settled into a rhythm, reviewing inventory lists and staff schedules, while Lily colored quietly on the couch, occasionally asking for help with homework. It was, ironically, the most time I'd spent with her on a weekday in years. Usually she'd be with Mrs. Rodriguez until my late shift ended, often already asleep when I finally made it home. By closing time, I'd made progress on organizing the chaotic bookkeeping system Frank had left behind, and had drafted a new server rotation that would distribute the lucrative weekend shifts more fairly. It felt good to use my business degree, even in this limited capacity. Skills I'd thought would never be relevant again after dropping out of my MBA program when I became pregnant with Lily. Natalia appeared in my doorway as I was shutting down the computer. "Ready to go home? The car is waiting." Home. The word caught me off guard. The luxury apartment wasn't home. Not yet, maybe not ever. But Lily seemed to have adapted to our new circumstances with the resilience of childhood, already chattering about a play date with a classmate who lived in our new building. As we walked through the now empty restaurant toward the exit, Natalia's phone chimed. She checked it, her expression revealing nothing. "Change of plans. Alexei would like to join you for dinner." My steps faltered. "Tonight? Where?" "At your apartment," she replied, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. "He's already there." The thought of Sokolov in our space, even if it was technically his space, sent a jolt of anxiety through me. "I'm not prepared for guests. There's no food." "Everything has been arranged," Natalia cut in smoothly. "You need only arrive." As we stepped outside into the cool evening air, I saw not the usual town car but a sleek black Mercedes idling at the curb, Dimitri standing by the rear door. Natalia guided us toward it, her hand light but insistent on my lower back. "Remember what I told you," she murmured, as Dimitri helped Lily into the back seat. "Alexei rewards loyalty generously. This dinner is important." "Important how?" I whispered back, an edge of panic in my voice. Her enigmatic smile offered no comfort. "You'll see." As the car pulled away from Bella Luna, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being driven not toward a simple dinner, but toward some kind of test, one whose parameters and consequences remained maddeningly unclear. The drive back to the apartment seemed both endless and too brief. Beside me, Lily chattered excitedly about her day, oblivious to the tension radiating from my rigid posture. Dimitri's eyes occasionally met mine in the rearview mirror, his expression unreadable. "Who's coming to dinner?" Lily asked as we pulled up to our building, the doorman already moving to open our door. "Mr. Sokolov," I said, trying to keep my voice light. "He's my new boss." "Is he nice?" A loaded question with no simple answer. "He's complicated," I settled on finally, "but you don't need to worry about anything. Just be your wonderful self." The elevator ride up felt like ascending to a judgment. Natalia had left us at the restaurant, saying she had other matters to attend to, but her parting words echoed in my mind. This dinner is important. When the doors slid open directly into our apartment, the first thing that struck me was the smell. Rich, savory aromas that made my mouth water despite my anxiety. The second was the sound of someone moving in the kitchen, the soft clink of glassware and the gentle sizzle of food cooking. "Hello?" I called, instinctively placing myself in front of Lily. "In the kitchen," came Sokolov's voice. surprisingly casual. I exchanged a confused glance with Dmitri, who merely shrugged before stepping back into the elevator. "I'll pick up Lily at 7:45 tomorrow," he said as the doors closed, leaving us alone with whatever scene awaited in the kitchen. Holding Lily's hand, I moved cautiously through the apartment. The dining table had been set with elegant simplicity. Fine china, crystal glasses, linen napkins folded into perfect triangles. A bottle of wine breathed in a decanter at the center, and soft classical music played from the hidden speakers I hadn't even known existed in the apartment. But the real surprise awaited in the kitchen, where Alexei Sokolov, the man I'd mentally categorized as a dangerous, calculating mob boss, stood at the stove, sleeves rolled up to his elbows, stirring something in a sauté pan. He'd shed his suit jacket and tie, and a dish towel was casually draped over one shoulder. He looked up as we entered, his expression warming fractionally. "Perfect timing," he said, as if there was nothing unusual about finding him cooking in our kitchen. "Dinner is almost ready." I stared, momentarily speechless. Lily had no such constraint. "You're cooking?" she asked, wide-eyed with the blunt curiosity of childhood. "I thought rich people had chefs." A genuine smile curved his lips, transforming his austere features. "My mother taught me to cook," he told her. "She said a man who cannot feed himself is always at the mercy of others." "My mom teaches me too," Lily offered, warming to him instantly in that terrifying way children do, with no sense of self-preservation. "I can make scrambled eggs all by myself." "An important skill," he agreed seriously. "Perhaps you'd like to set the table while your mother and I finish dinner?" Lily nodded eagerly and bounded off to the dining room, leaving me alone with Sokolov in the kitchen. A domestic tableau so incongruous with everything I knew about him that I almost laughed. "This is unexpected," I said finally, moving closer to see what he was cooking. "I find that the unexpected is often the most memorable," he replied, stirring what appeared to be a rich mushroom sauce. "Besides, restaurants are my business. It would be strange if I didn't know my way around a kitchen." On the counter, I spotted the ingredients for our meal: expensive cuts of steak, fresh vegetables, a loaf of crusty bread. Nothing ostentatious or showy, just quality ingredients prepared with obvious skill. "Why are you doing this?" I asked, keeping my voice low so Lily wouldn't hear from the dining room. His hands never faltered in their work as he answered. "I thought it was time we spoke more candidly, away from the restaurant, from Natalia, from the trappings of business. Food has a way of disarming people." "Is that what you're trying to do? Disarm me?" His dark eyes met mine, a flicker of amusement in their depths. "Would it work?" "I doubt it," I said honestly. He nodded, as if my answer pleased him. "Good. I don't need you disarmed, Emma. I need you alert, perceptive, and unafraid to speak your mind, at least with me." I leaned against the counter, watching him work. There was something hypnotic about his movements. Efficient, precise, nothing wasted. The same qualities, I imagined, that made him effective in his other, less culinary pursuits. "Why are you really here?" I pressed. The truth, not another partial explanation or cryptic statement about seeing potential in me. He was quiet for a moment, focusing on plating the steaks with a chef's attention to presentation. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower, almost intimate. 3 months ago, one of my most trusted lieutenants betrayed me to a rival organization. He'd been with me for 10 years, attended my mother's funeral, held my newborn goddaughter. I considered him family. The muscles in his jaw tightened. His betrayal cost the lives of 2 of my men, and nearly resulted in the collapse of operations I'd spent years building. I waited, sensing there was more to this story, something that connected to me in ways I couldn't yet see. I've spent these months rebuilding, reorganizing, identifying weaknesses in my organization. He set the plates aside and turned to face me fully. "Do you know what I discovered, Emma? The problem wasn't security or technology or even money. It was people. I surrounded myself with those who wanted something from me: power, protection, wealth. Their loyalty lasted only until a better offer came along." "And you think I'm different?" I asked skeptically. "I barely know you." "Precisely." He moved closer, his proximity sending an involuntary shiver down my spine, not entirely from fear. "You have no allegiance to my world or its players. You've spent your life being loyal to one person, your daughter, without expecting anything in return. That kind of natural loyalty can't be bought or coerced. It's innate. I shook my head, still not understanding. So you orchestrated all of this, the job, the apartment, the clothes, because you think I'll be loyal to you? No, he said quietly. I did it because I know you'll be loyal to your daughter. And now, her well-being is tied to mine. The cold calculation of it stole my breath. You're using my love for Lily to ensure I won't betray you. I'm offering you and Lily security, stability, a future, in exchange for your loyalty and discretion. It's a business arrangement that benefits us both. His expression softened fractionally. I'm not threatening her, Emma. I would never harm a child. I'm simply acknowledging the reality that your primary motivation in life is her welfare. You don't know anything about me, I whispered, anger building beneath my fear. I know you graduated with honors in business administration before dropping out of your MBA program when you became pregnant. He countered smoothly. I know your ex-husband emptied your joint account and disappeared 3 days after you told him about the baby. I know you worked through your pregnancy, took 6 weeks of maternity leave, and have been working double shifts ever since to give Lily everything she needs. Each accurate detail of my life from his lips felt like an invasion. Stop. I know that despite everything, you've never been late on Lily's school tuition, even when it meant skipping meals yourself. I know you read to her every night, even after 16-hour shifts. I know you've sacrificed everything for her without complaint or bitterness. His voice had grown softer, almost gentle. That kind of strength, that kind of loyalty, it's rare, Emma, and valuable. Dinner's ready, Lily called from the dining room, breaking the tension that had built between us. Sokolov stepped back, his professional mask sliding back into place. We should join her. The food will get cold. Dinner was a surreal experience. Sokolov transformed in Lily's presence, his usual intensity giving way to a relaxed charm that drew her out of her shell. He asked about her school, listened with genuine interest to her stories about the classroom hamster, and somehow extracted more information about her day than I typically managed. By dessert, a decadent chocolate cake that had Lily's eyes widening in delight, she was completely won over, giggling at his understated jokes and proudly showing him her charm bracelet. The L is for Lily, she explained, pointing to the charm he'd noticed on my wrist that first night. Mom has a matching one. She says as long as we have these, we're always connected, even when she's working late. Sokolov's eyes met mine across the table, something unreadable in their depths. A beautiful sentiment, he said quietly. After dinner, when Lily had been tucked into bed with a new storybook that had mysteriously appeared on her nightstand, Sokolov and I returned to the living room. He poured 2 glasses of cognac from a crystal decanter that I was certain hadn't been there that morning. She's a remarkable child, he said, handing me a glass. You've done an exceptional job raising her alone. Thank you, I said stiffly, accepting the drink, but not drinking, though I'm sure you knew that from your thorough investigation into my life. He acknowledged the barb with a slight tilt of his head. Information and understanding are different things. Files tell me facts, not the strength of character it takes to build a life from nothing. Is that what you did? Built your life from nothing? A shadow passed over his face. In a manner of speaking, my father was killed when I was 12. A business dispute, you might say. My mother brought me to America with nothing but the clothes we wore and her determination to give me a better life. The parallel to my own situation with Lily wasn't lost on me. And yet, you chose a life in the same world that killed your father. I chose power, he corrected. When you grow up powerless, watching your mother suffer humiliation and hardship because she has no protection, you learn that in this world there are predators and prey. I decided early on which I would be. The naked honesty in his words was disarming. And which am I in your world, predator or prey? Neither, he said after a thoughtful pause. You're something far more rare and valuable. A potential ally with integrity. I laughed bitterly. Integrity? You've basically forced me into working for your criminal organization by exploiting my love for my daughter. I've offered you a legitimate job with exceptional compensation, he countered. Everything on paper is legal. What you know, what you suspect about my other businesses, that's between us. And if I went to the police? His expression didn't change, but the temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. With what evidence? Besides, law enforcement in this district understands the value of peaceful coexistence. They focus on violent offenders, not businessmen who occasionally operate in gray areas. The implicit threat beneath his reasonable tone wasn't lost on me. I set down my untouched cognac. What do you really want from me, Alexei? Not the restaurant management, not the eyes and ears story, the real reason you've invested so much in a waitress and her daughter. He studied me for a long moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. Have you ever heard of Peter Nikolaev? The name sent an electric shock through my system. My ex-husband's name was Peter Collins. Yes, it was, he agreed. After he changed it from Nikolaev. Before he met you, before he became the charming sales representative who swept you off your feet, Peter was an accountant for the Baranovsky family, rivals of mine in certain enterprises. He embezzled nearly $2 million from them and disappeared. My mind reeled with this information. That's impossible. Peter wasn't... He couldn't have... He was very good at creating new identities. Sokolov continued calmly. After leaving you, he became Thomas Wilson, then James Peterson, and now lives as Daniel Green in Seattle, working in financial services. How long have you known this? I demanded, anger rising through my shock. How long have you known where he was? I discovered his connection to you 6 months ago, when one of my associates spotted him at a conference. The resemblance between him and Lily is... striking. His gaze was steady on mine. I've been observing you since then, trying to determine if you were involved in his schemes, or merely another victim. And now you've decided I'm a victim. So what? You're rescuing me? The irony was too bitter to swallow. Out of the goodness of your heart, out of pragmatism, he corrected. Peter Nikolaev stole from dangerous people. The Baranovskys haven't forgotten or forgiven. They've been tracking him for years, and they're getting close. When they find him, they'll look into his past, including you and Lily. Cold fear washed through me. They would come after us, but we have nothing to do with whatever he did. They're not known for their discernment, Sokolov said dryly. But as it happens, you do have something to do with it. The money Peter stole, some of it is in your name. What? I gasped. That's not possible. I never had access to that kind of money. We lived paycheck to paycheck, not in accounts you know about, he explained. Before he left, Peter established several offshore holdings in joint names, holdings the Baranovskys are still searching for. To them, you're either his accomplice or leverage to use against him. My head spun with the implications. So all of this, the job, the apartment, the protection, it's because you think I'm in danger from these people? Or because you think I can lead you to the money? Both, he admitted with surprising candor. I need to find those accounts before the Baranovskys do. And yes, offering you protection serves my interests as well as yours. If they found you, they might discover information I'd prefer they didn't have. Information about your operations, I concluded. So I'm just a pawn in your war with these people. You're a civilian caught in the crossfire, he corrected. I'm offering you a way out that benefits us both. You help me locate the accounts Peter established. I ensure you and Lily remain safe, and you keep a legitimate, well-paying position regardless of the outcome. I stood abruptly, pacing to the window that overlooked the city lights. This is insane. A week ago, I was just a waitress worried about making rent. Now I'm caught between rival crime families because of something my ex-husband did years ago. Sokolov remained seated, watching me with that same considering look I remembered from our first meeting. Life rarely unfolds as we expect, Emma. The question is what we do with the hand we're dealt. I turned to face him, anger finally overcoming my fear. And what choice do I really have? Work for you or risk these Baranovsky people coming after me and Lily? That's not a choice. That's coercion. No, he said, rising to stand before me. Coercion would be threatening you directly. I'm offering protection from a threat that exists independently of me, a threat you weren't even aware of until tonight. How convenient, I said bitterly. Convenient for whom? He countered. I've invested considerable resources in you already, with no guarantee of return. I've given you a position that puts you close to sensitive aspects of my business. I've shared information that could be dangerous to both of us if repeated. Those are not the actions of someone looking for a pawn, Emma. They're the actions of someone looking for a partner. The word hung between us, loaded with implications. A partner in what, exactly? In rebuilding what was damaged by betrayal, he said simply. In creating something more secure, more legitimate. Something that could, eventually, exist entirely within the boundaries of the law. I searched his face for deception and found only intensity. You expect me to believe you want to go legitimate? Not overnight, he conceded. But as a long-term strategy, yes. The most dangerous periods in our business come during transitions of power, during conflicts between rivals. I've survived 2 such periods already. I don't care to test my luck with a third. And I fit into this strategy how exactly? You have business training you've never been able to use. You have natural intelligence and insight into people. You have a vested interest in stability and security because of Lily. And most importantly, you have no existing ties to my world that might compromise your judgment or loyalty. He moved closer, his presence overwhelming in the dimly lit room. You see things clearly, Emma. That's rare and valuable to me. His proximity sent an involuntary shiver through me that had nothing to do with fear. There was something magnetic about him, a gravity that pulled at me despite every rational objection. And if I refuse? If I take Lily and disappear, then I'll ensure you have enough resources to establish yourselves safely elsewhere, with new identities the Baranovskys couldn't trace, he said without hesitation. But I think you're smarter than that. Running means forever looking over your shoulder, forever wondering if today is the day they find you. It means tearing Lily from a stable environment just when she's beginning to thrive. The truth of his words stung. I thought of Lily's excitement about her new school, the swimming lessons she'd been begging for, the security of knowing her asthma medication was covered by insurance. What exactly would this partnership entail? I asked finally. Initially, exactly what we've discussed. You manage Bella Luna, report anything unusual or concerning, and help me locate Peter's hidden accounts. In return, you and Lily remain under my protection, with all the benefits you've already seen. And after that, if we find these accounts, he smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his austere features. After that, we assess your strengths and interests. Perhaps you finish your MBA. Perhaps you take on management of additional legitimate businesses in my portfolio. The possibilities are extensive. And my involvement with the less legitimate aspects, limited to what you're comfortable with, he promised. I'm not asking you to become something you're not, Emma. I'm asking you to use your existing skills in a context that rewards them properly. I studied him, trying to reconcile the dangerous man I knew he was with the surprisingly reasonable person standing before me. Why do I feel like I'm making a deal with the devil? His smile turned wry, perhaps because the line between devil and guardian angel has always been thinner than most people care to admit. We were standing close now, the tension between us shifting into something more complex than fear or distrust. I could smell his cologne, something subtle and expensive, and see the faint lines at the corners of his eyes that suggested he smiled more than I'd yet witnessed. I need time, I said finally, to think about all this. Of course. He stepped back, giving me space. Take the weekend. Spend time with Lily. Consider the alternatives realistically, not idealistically. I'll expect your answer Monday morning. As he gathered his jacket and prepared to leave, a question that had been nagging at me finally surfaced. You said I remind you of your mother. Is that really why you're doing all this? Some kind of, I don't know, psychological transference? He paused at the door, his expression unreadable in the half-light. My mother died protecting me, Emma. She stepped in front of a bullet meant for me when I was 22. If there's any transference, as you put it, it's not that I see her in you, it's that I see in Lily what my mother saw in me. A child worth any sacrifice. The raw emotion in his voice caught me off guard. I'm sorry, I said softly. Don't be. Her choice made me who I am. His composure returned as quickly as it had slipped. Remember that when you make your decision. Every choice reshapes not just our lives, but the lives of those connected to us. With that, he was gone, leaving me alone in the beautiful apartment with my thoughts and the lingering scent of his cologne. The weekend passed in a blur of normalcy that felt surreal after the revelations of Friday night. I took Lily shopping, to the park, to a movie she'd been wanting to see. We swam in the building's pool, baked cookies in our gleaming kitchen, and explored our new neighborhood. Through it all, I watched for signs of surveillance, either Sokolov's people or, more worryingly, these Baranovskys he'd warned me about, but saw nothing obvious. Sunday night, after Lily was asleep, I sat at the dining table with a legal pad, methodically listing my options. I could run, taking Sokolov's offer of resources and new identities. I could go to the police, though without evidence, and with Sokolov's warnings about their peaceful coexistence with his organization that seemed both dangerous and futile. Or I could accept his offer, the partnership, the protection, the careful dance along the edges of legality. As the night deepened, my thoughts kept returning to something Natalia had said on that first morning. We all have choices, Emma. Remember that. By dawn, my decision was made. Monday morning arrived with crystalline clarity. I dressed carefully in one of the elegant suits Sokolov had provided, applied subtle makeup, and arranged my hair in a sleek twist. The woman in the mirror looked confident, composed, capable. Everything I had once aspired to be before life took its unexpected turns. After dropping Lily at school, Dmitri waiting patiently by the car, his presence now oddly reassuring, I directed him to take me not to Bella Luna, but to the address Sokolov had given me Friday night, his private office in a nondescript building downtown. Natalia met me in the lobby, her expression revealing nothing as she escorted me to the elevator. "He's expecting you," was all she said as the doors closed behind us. Sokolov's office was a study in understated power, spacious without being ostentatious, the furniture clearly expensive but not showy. The man himself stood at the window overlooking the city, turning as we entered. "Emma," he said, his voice warming slightly, "right on time." Natalia melted away, closing the door behind her with silent efficiency. "I've made my decision," I said, without preamble. I assumed as much. He gestured to the chair across from his desk, taking his own seat as I settled into the buttery leather. "Before you tell me, I should inform you that we've located one of Peter's accounts, a small one, but it confirms my suspicions about the joint holdings." This was unexpected. "How?" "Your signature on the lease for your new apartment," he explained. It provided the final piece of a pattern we'd been tracking. "The account is in the Caymans, established 7 years ago, around the time Lily was born. The timing wasn't coincidental, I knew. Peter had left 3 weeks after Lily's birth, claiming a business trip. He never returned." "How much?" I asked, dreading the answer. "Just under 200,000 in that account. A fraction of what he took, but enough to establish the connection." I felt ill. All those years of struggling, of working double shifts and counting pennies, and Peter had stashed money that could have changed our lives. "What happens to it now? That depends on your decision." Sokolov's gaze was steady on mine. "If you've chosen to leave, the account information is yours to do with as you wish. If you've chosen to stay," he let the sentence hang. I took a deep breath, the decision I'd reached in the pre-dawn hours solidifying. "I'm staying," I said firmly. "But I have conditions." A flicker of surprise crossed his face, followed by something that might have been respect. "I'm listening." "First, everything I do has to be legal on paper. Nothing that could ever lead back to threaten Lily's security or future. Second, I finish my MBA, on my own schedule, around work and Lily's needs. Third, I want a legitimate career path mapped out, not just vague promises about possibilities." He nodded slowly. "Reasonable requests. Anything else?" "Yes," I said, meeting his gaze directly. "Complete honesty between us from now on. No more half-truths or omissions. If we're going to be partners, then I need to know exactly what I'm involved in, what the risks are, and what you expect from me." "Honesty is a dangerous commodity in my world," he said carefully. "Then consider it my price," I countered. "Take it or leave it." He studied me for a long moment, then smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his face. "I accept your terms, Emma Collins. Welcome to the family business." As he extended his hand across the desk, I knew I was crossing a line I could never uncross. But for the first time in years, I was choosing my path rather than merely reacting to circumstances beyond my control. I took his hand, feeling the strength in his grip, the warmth of his skin against mine. "To new beginnings," I said quietly, "and to finding Peter Nikolaev," he added, his eyes darkening with purpose. "He has debts to pay, to the Baranovskys, to me, and most importantly, to you and Lily." As our hands remained clasped a moment longer than strictly necessary, I realized that in choosing Sokolov's protection, I'd tied my fate to his in ways that went beyond business. The intensity in his gaze, the electricity that sparked between us whenever we were close, these weren't merely the dynamics of power and protection. There was something more evolving between us, something as dangerous and compelling as the world he'd drawn me into. Whether it would prove to be my salvation or my downfall remained to be seen. But for the first time in years, I faced the future not with fear or resignation, but with a strange, fierce anticipation. Whatever came next, Lily and I would face it from a position of strength, not vulnerability. And in the shadowy world I'd entered, strength was the only true currency that mattered. "To new beginnings," Sokolov echoed, his eyes never leaving mine, "and to what comes after."